Well, welcome everyone to WaterSense version 2, introducing additional flexibility and water efficiency options. This course is approved for many different CEUs, including AP Homes, Lead AP Homes, and Passive House Certified Passive House Consultant, as well as AIA Health, Welfare, and Safety, which may make it applicable to your state-based design or contractor license. This course is brought to you by the Green Home Institute. I'm the program manager here, Brett Little, and I will be taking you through the session as your moderator today. Right before we get started, I want to say a huge thanks to our top tier sponsor, Rheem, and let you know about the all-new Rheem Proterra, an energy efficient, quiet, and all-electric hybrid heat pump water heater. The future of water heating is finally here. All the way down to 40 gallons now, 50, 65, and 80. Real cool, they took the gold among home efficiency solutions at the 2021 Edison's Award, and they did that by having super efficiency, up to 400% efficiency, much higher than standard electric and even gas units. They have different operation modes, really good warranties, leak detection, and automations, which we're going to talk a little bit about. You can see here how a heat pump water heater works. Air comes in at the top, which is heated naturally, and then it uses refrigerant to compress it and continue to heat it. So you have hot water right from the temperature in the air. You can set this up in many different ways, ducted, ductless. You can string them together to serve multifamily properties. And as I mentioned, you've got this built-in technology where you can get leak sensor. You can you don't have to go down into the dirty basement. You can change the temperature settings, track your energy use. I've been doing this, very cool. Tracking it on my own house, and you can do scheduling for time of use programs. Very important if you're trying not to use energy for a certain time of day, which helps keep the grid cleaner and helps keep costs down. These are the systems to do it. And so you can see here, this is just, and NRDC has a great detail on how these work, how we can use our heat pump water heaters as batteries compared to other water heaters. I also want to say a second thanks to our other sponsor, Niagara. Niagara Conservation has some of the lowest flowing toilets on the planet, which use a ton of water. They're all the way down to 0.8 gallons per flush on their stealth toilet, even lower down to 0.5 on the dual flush nano systems. We have glowing reviews from multifamily affordable housing renovation specialists that use this vacuum sealed technology to say that it works, it reduces costs, maintenance costs, water costs. And they've got an ADA approved side handle as well if you need it. All right, so before we get into it, I just wanted to remind you again that the WaterSense program from EPA ties right into LEED, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But really what you're talking about is, number one, just getting an innovation credit right out of the gate by dual certifying under WaterSense. That's the easy one. You can pick up one of your innovation credits. Then from there, there's a lot of connection between having your required WaterSense certified products, getting your water reduction points, and saving water in general. If you're doing that through the WaterSense program, you're probably going to score pretty high in the LEED program, especially under this newer version. So I'm real excited to welcome back Olga, and she's going to introduce herself and their program, and then take you through it, and then we're going to dive in a little bit more about LEED. If you have questions, ask them throughout. You won't be bothering us. We'll try to get to them right away. So Olga, please, welcome back. Actually, I think this is your second or third time on, and please take it away.
And I was muted. I apologize. Thank you again, Brett, for inviting us and always keeping us in mind, and for having us this one more time. We're very excited about today's program, and we're very excited about version 2. Because it adds so much more flexibility to water efficiency and the way that it can be built into your homes. So let me go ahead and get the presentation set up here. Program at EPA. I have an undergrad in architecture and a master's in environmental engineering, and so this job has been a great fit, and it's been lots of fun. Today we want to talk about version 2, which is our newest version for the home certification program. And we'll talk a little bit more about the requirements, how we have changed and how we've incorporated. more flexibility into the program. Towards the end of the presentation, I'll also have some tips and tidbits of about, I'm sorry, I was trying to move my screen, some design tips about how you can incorporate water efficiency throughout the design process. So just for a little bit of context, WaterSense it's a voluntary program established in 2006 through the EPA. It focuses on products, programs, and practices. And then later in the program, homes were introduced as a more whole and building science approach to water efficiency. The way that we look at the program is that we see these interlinking objectives where we have practices, people, and products, and look at ways where those interact and what are the most efficient ways into behavioral change and how people can continue or make it easy for people to save water. The program was first initiated in certifying individual products. So we have shower heads, bathroom faucets, toilets, and then we also moved on to outdoor irrigation products such as irrigation controllers and spray sprinkler bodies. We're constantly looking at the market and doing research to see what other products could potentially be certified and could continue to provide higher water savings. In addition to products, we also offer professional certification programs, and this is for our outdoor irrigation professionals. And so we have organizations that provide training and certification that help folks then better understand and better design landscaping as well as irrigation systems. And of course, in addition to all those certifications, we now have the Homes label program, in where, like I mentioned earlier, we look at the water efficiency in a more building science approach. And so looking at all the components, looking at behavior, products, distribution systems, and in outdoors, we're looking at landscaping practices, and again, irrigation systems. The Homes program is national, which means that it can be implemented anywhere in the country. It recognizes at least that each home that is certified is at least 30% more water efficient than typical new construction. They're independently certified, meaning that we have verifiers, which are akin to what energy raters are, go out to the field to certify that the homes are indeed achieving this efficiency. And the program is designed to align with our other sister programs such as Energy Star and Indoor Air Plus. Just for a little bit of context about indoor water use, we've got this graphic. And Brett, did you want to jump in?
Well, you had mentioned raters, energy raters. Obviously, you know, folks who are doing energy ratings certainly in some senses are already evaluating water, right? They're looking at shower head efficiencies and aerators for the HERS score and all that. So there's certainly some, and they're used to verifying things, but is there special water training, and maybe you're gonna get to this, but special water training or education programming for energy raters, or can non-energy raters do this too? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. That's a great question, and we will talk about it later in the presentation. We refer to water raters as verifiers, as they go out to the site and verify the water efficiency requirements. And so right now, under this version, we're having the opportunity to work with two different organizations. So we're working with ResNet and we're working with Home Innovation, and they each have their own rater, and they provide WaterSense specific training as well as their own program specific water training. And so we'll go into more detail, given that each organization is able to submit their water rating tools or measuring scores, and we'll provide more details. So the training is always specific to whichever program the raters are working under. So we're talking about residential water use. We see that a lot of the water is being used indoors, toilets, showers, taking a big chunk of faucets. or I'm sorry, this is a breakdown of indoor water use. What we do find is that sometimes 70% of water is used indoors and 30% is used outdoors. However, this ratio can fluctuate depending on what part of the country you're at. And so what this new version will start to provide is more flexibility for builders and designers to design systems that are more appropriate to their local needs. And so in areas where outdoor water is minimal, you can find systems that are going to save you water, going to save you more water indoors, and vice versa. So why does water matter to the building industry? Well, while the cost of water is obviously rising, it's also part of their social and environmental commitment to take care and protect our natural resources. It's also a big, water is also becoming a big part of the land entitlement process. Where there's water scarcity, it's becoming harder to develop, and vice versa. And it's also part of their corporate disclosure and reporting. So many builders and developers are starting to have sustainability reports. Reports are looking at how their building and development is impacting the environment. And all of these water efficiency strategies have a lot to contribute to these efforts. And then on the other hand, why does the building industry matter to us as a water efficiency program? And the reason is, building or embedding water efficiency from the very beginning, so from the design phase to the construction phase, is really the most efficient way to make homes more water efficient. For instance, if you're designing, if you're wanting a quick hot water to be delivered to the tap, so that you're not wasting all of that water sitting in the system, the best way to do that is to design it. So that when it comes time for installing it and in the construction phase, you have a smooth process rather than having construction and then having to come back and fix some of these systems so that they could be more efficient. So here we'll jump a little bit more into the specifics of the the version 2. So the version 1 of the program came out in 2009. Then we have a few revisions of that version, both in August 2012 and July 2014. We worked with that program, or with that version of the program, for quite a while. And then in 2018, we started to look and realized that the water movement, or the water industry, was sort of shifting, and things have been changing, and now we had new systems, and the industry was really starting to think differently about water. And so we put out a notice of intent, meaning that we had the intention to sort of upgrade the program and start looking at ways in which we could adjust it so that the certification made better sense in all parts of the country. Then in June 2020, we rolled out our pilot program. So this was already based on version 2, and it was based out in Nevada. So it was with a select builder in a specific zone. We basically just wanted to test out the program, see if it had any glitches, both administratively and technical and in the ground. And so we were able to receive a lot of good feedback from that. So that then in February of 2021, we were able to roll out the final program, which is where we are today. The version 2 pilot program, like I mentioned, it was done with ResNet, who's one of our HCOs, one of our approved HCOs, along with Home Innovations. But for the pilot program, we worked specifically with ResNet and KB Builders. And so they use the tool HERS H2O in order to quantify their water efficiency, and that's the tool that we were using under the pilot program. Some of the key feedback that we received is that the program had achieved the desired flexibility that we were aiming for. It adds about 30 to 60 minutes to the existing rating process, which is also something that feasible. We really wanted to work on making this as seamless as possible for the raters, and also identified several procedural improvements, such as reporting and how we're filling out a checklist at the site. With the change of the new program to version 2, we have a new group of stakeholders that we're working with, and so just wanted to share these because they're sort of new names that we're handling. So Home Certification Organization, which we refer to as HCOs, are the organizations that essentially are administering the program. They're responsible for ensuring the quality assurance, the verifier training, and authorization. They're impartial and they provide the reporting back to the program. They're also responsible for administering what we refer to as the WACM, which essentially are their water efficiency scoring tools. And so for ResNet, we have HERS H2O. For home innovations, we have NGBS, which has a prescriptive and a performance path, and we'll go over that a little later. Then we have the HomeSense home verifiers, which also, they go onto the field and now have sort of a new relationship with us. And finally, we have the home builder partner, which we've always sort of worked with. Go ahead, Brad.
Do you, so I know the folks over at Green Builder Coalition, right, with the WERS index rating, we've had them on the show a couple times, and they've been expanding rapidly through incentives that are statewide in some regards. Do you have any connection or partnership with them at all?
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad that you asked. Yes, we have been in conversations with the team at WERS and continue to work with them. Part of the application process for an organization to become an HCO is to submit what we call a PCM, which is a proposed certification method. And so this is essentially the tool that the organization would use to certify that the homes are indeed achieving this 30% water efficiency. And so once we receive the tool, we have an evaluation process that we take the tool through, essentially to make sure that any home that is certified through that program or through using that tool does indeed achieve that 30%. And it's a very elaborate process. It's very involved. There's a lot of back and forth. And so with both of our HCOs, along with WERS, there's always a lot of conversation so that we can, both the organization and the program can come to result in a product that we're all confident is measuring water efficiently. So yes, we are in talks with WERS and hope that eventually they can also join the program as an HCO. Again, some terminology that I think I've already bounced around a little bit. So the PCM is the proposed certification method, which is part of the application process from the HCO. And then that PCM, when approved, becomes a WACM, which is the WaterSense approved certification method. Some of the documents that make up the structure of version 2 are the specification for homes. This is what lists all of our technical requirements. Then we have the certification system, which describes the requirements that that each HCO needs to meet in order to become an HCO. And so this defines the requirements and roles and responsibilities for all the parties involved in the construction, verification, certification, and the labeling of the homes. Our fourth document is the WaterSense technical evaluation process for approving the home certification methods. And essentially, this is a model. This is the model that's used to test all of the PCMs that are submitted with each application. It's the process that every organization will go through when applying. And then the WaterSense specification for homes supporting documents. It's the rationale of the program structure and all of the major program elements. So essentially, it's a summary of all of these documents. If anyone's interested in deep diving into any of these documents, you can always contact me, or you can visit the website and download them from there. So what is the process? What does it look like to label a home? So home builders, we always ask the home builders to partner with the program. Partnership is absolutely free, but it formalizes our relationship and sort of formalizes that commitment for builders to design and build homes that are water efficient. Then the WaterSense home verifiers confirms that the homes meet a WaterSense specification requirement. So verifiers go out and essentially walk through the site, walk through the home, and make sure that all of the requirements and all of the systems or strategies or products that are being installed in order to achieve that 30% are indeed present and working. And then the HCO finally issues the WaterSense label to the home that has met the specification. So here, deep diving more into the sort of technical aspects. So WaterSense requirements for homes are that all the homes meet the mandatory checklist for WaterSense labeled homes, which we will see later in the presentation. And every home has to be at least 30% more efficient than a home with typical characteristics or new construction. The mandatory checklist must be complete for all homes, regardless of what HCO or what WACM you're working with. And this helps us ensure that all the all the homes that are labeled contain this minimum set of features that are expected from the program, from WaterSense. The criteria for the checklist is essentially a basic measure of what every home should have if it's water efficient. So, we're not going to accept a house that has leaks because we also have certified products that we know save water, that have been certified to save water and perform well. That's also a part of the requirements that these homes have WaterSense certified products installed. There are two categories that are reflected in the checklist, which is the verification of leaks and the products, like I mentioned. So this is essentially the list, the checklist that we work with. And so like you'll see, a big part of it is leaks. So just making sure that there's no leaks throughout the home. So a pressure loss test so that all water supplies detects no leaks, free visible leaks from toilets, bathroom faucets, shower heads, essentially any water connections, so bathroom tub faucets, when any of these are activated. No leaks at the kitchen or at the kitchen sink faucet, and no visible leaks from appliances such as water heater or the clothes washers, dishwashers, hose bibs, irrigation systems, etc. And then, of course, WaterSense labeled plumbing fixtures, toilets, bathrooms, bathroom sink faucets, and shower heads. So for those of you that might have been familiar with our previous program, with our previous version 1.2, you would have seen that this list was much more extensive and that there was also a section for outdoors. So we had indoors and outdoors with very prescriptive requirements. Now with version 2, what we have, we've shifted over and just included this one very specific checklist, which is very minimal. So then a big question is, what happens to the outdoors? So even though they don't appear in the checklist, it doesn't mean that we're not taking them into account. And so this is where that 30% efficiency comes in. The checklist is only intended to include sort of global items. Homes in dry regions are unlikely to meet the efficiency requirement without incorporating outdoor measures, because we know that the water use outside is so high that if water isn't being saved outdoors, we're not going to achieve that 30%. It also allows or gives builders, designers, the flexibility to see where it makes more sense to save water. If you're in a hot, dry climate, then what are the measures that you take outside? If you're in a cold, wet climate, then you probably have to look indoors to save a lot of that water to achieve that 30%. And of course, depending on the HCO that you're working with and their tool, their scoring tool, then you can see which strategies and which measures make the most sense. Go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you're getting to this, so I'm getting ahead, but we've had you all on before with the WaterSense water budget tool as a way to help people navigate water savings. It's used in LEED. We're going to talk a little bit about that later, but where does that play a role in this program, in the version 2 now?
Yes. Yes, and the water budget tool is a popular tool that our program has, and many people use it and find it very, very helpful. And it's still a great tool. So with the water budget tool, you can still find out how much water you need depending on the landscaping that you're using, depending on the region where you're at. And so it's still, you know, we still promote it, and we still feel that it's a useful tool. We're not saying don't use it. We're simply saying there are areas where that tool is going to make more sense than others.
So is it true that either it sounds like it's not mandatory, and then can it help you towards your 30% reduction in the calculation, or is it just really a sort of additional resource for you?
Yeah. So I guess specifically saying it's no longer required, so you don't have to have the calculation. I think what the tool will now help you do is see how much water you could potentially save outdoors. However, and depending on what HCO you work with, the tool might provide some points, let's say, towards that 30%, or some advantage to that 30%. So I guess it does depend on which program you go with.
Got it. So it could be embedded into their process, and
Correct.
then you could be using it. So, okay, well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying. Yeah. So talking a little bit more about that 30% requirement. Again, the 30% is based on typical new construction, and it's a comparison based on national standards and common design and landscape practices. It does not exclude or disadvantage homes in other states that have more efficient codes. So states like California, states like Colorado, where they're really looking at water efficiency much more within their building codes. Because these states, even though they are looking, they might be ahead of the curve with water efficiency, they're still not achieving that 30%. So with WaterSense, we're still trying to push the envelope even in those areas. It maintains the water savings that we had during version 1, which is the idea. We want the program to continue pushing the envelope and to continue saving water. So always trying to move that forward. It establishes a level that even though it might be challenging, it's still achievable in many markets and climates across the country, and it's proven to save water. And it provides a balance of indoor and outdoor savings. One of the most common feedbacks or comments that we used to get when we were going through this whole revision was the lack of flexibility, or how challenging it was to achieve either the indoor or the outdoor requirements given on the part of the country. So this really allows people that flexibility to pick and choose. And so how do we measure 30%? Again, each HCO develops their own method of how they're going to be measuring water use. So we work with the existing framework of the potential HCOs. And the idea is that we protect the integrity, obviously, of the WaterSense labeled home program, but that it ensures that every home, no matter what program you go with, does achieve that 30%. EPA does retain the role of reviewing and approving each method. And that's just so that we can protect the credibility of the program. The technical evaluation protocol is available at the website under those documents that I shared with you all. And it involves a stress test, which is what we refer to as the technical evaluation tool. And then the application determines the scope. So there might be HCOs that want to apply for specific areas. So if you are, I don't know, in a specific state, you have a program that looks at water efficiency in a specific region, that you can apply for that, or you can apply at a national scope.
Do you, so I see there's these 2 HCOs, there's maybe 3 coming, maybe more. Will you have a way to verify on the back end that, you know, the way that they're setting up their mechanism is actually working, and that those 30% are being achieved equally? You know, is there going to be any kind of water reporting requirements, or even just a study that the EPA might propose to ensure that savings are being met in general, and then how they're being met per HCO?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. That's a quite technical, and that's something that, I mean, we would love to have that data, and we do reporting in terms of knowing location and number of homes that we can have. But that really, in terms of water use, really comes down to the municipalities and a lot of the water utilities, local water utilities that collect that sort of data. And so that's one level that we don't get involved with. Yeah. I don't know. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So here are some of the considerations that are looked on within the technical evaluation for when PCMs or these water measuring tools are submitted to us. So indoors, we look at what are the gallons per flush, gallons per minute, essentially the water use of fixtures like toilets, shower heads, faucets, clothes washers, dishwashers, hot water delivery systems, how are those being designed, how are those performing, leaks, thermostatic shut-off valves in showers. So all of these other different systems that in many ways we weren't considering during the first version of the program, but are now being considered because of the flexibility and the variability that we have now with the different HCOs and the ways that they're measuring water. In the outdoor aspect, we're looking at plants, we're looking at irrigation types, whether they're using outdoor WaterSense labeled products, irrigation scheduling, so different practices outdoors, efficient, whether they're still incorporating an irrigation or outdoor professional to perform an audit. And under HERS H2O, there's also the what we refer to as RICI, which is the Residential Irrigation Capacity Index. What are the HCOs required to have in order to become an HCO is we look at three main areas. So what are their organizational requirements, the certification method development process. So the tools that they're presenting to us for measuring water, have they been coveted by the public? Have they been designed openly? That sort of, what has been the process to develop these tools. And then the PCM technical evaluation, which we've talked about as the sort of stress test of the tool. So each HCO needs to also show proof of how they handle independent oversight, quality assurance, training for all of their verifiers, the rating professionals, the home verification protocols, how they go about those, impartiality, so sort of a neutral stakeholder in the whole process, and messaging and reporting, which is the information that gets back to us. The certification method development, the HCO then demonstrates that the PCM requirements were developed using one of the following. So either an ANSI approved standard, look, you're utilizing an ANSI approved standard, or if the HCO is a public agency, then they follow the requirements of the jurisdiction that has authority over them, or they demonstrate a development in accordance with alternative requirements based on the ANSI essential requirements. So now we'll talk a little bit more about our current HCOs. So like I said, we are now working with ResNet and Home Innovation Research Labs. And so this table shows a little bit about the structure of each of their programs. So for ResNet, we have the WACM, which is HERS H2O. So this is the tool that they're using to measure water use. It's a performance rating system, and the certification threshold is a score of 70, with 100 being, or I guess over 70 being more water than you need to use, and 0 being super water efficient. So that 30% between 130 and 70, essentially it's that 30% efficiency that we're looking for. So all the homes that are certified under ResNet using the HERS H2O need to score a 70 or below. Types of homes that are certified, that can be certified under the system, are new and existing single family, and their geographic scope is national. So homes across the country can be certified under ResNet. Then we have home innovation research labs, which are, they're using, so they have two options. You can either do a prescriptive path or a performance path. The prescriptive path uses the NGBS Green WaterSense checklist. And so it's essentially a checklist. You just go down the list and achieve every one of the requirements. You have to achieve all of the requirements, and this one can be used for both new and existing single and multifamily homes. And then their performance path is based on the NGBS Green Water Rating Index. So that's the WRI. It's a performance rating system, and all the homes under this rating have to score 64 or less in order to receive the certification. This one's available for new single family and multifamily homes. And again, both of their scopes are at a national level. These are the contacts that we have, or the representatives, and everybody wants to reach out or is interested in more details about each of their programs. So we work with Ryan Mears at ResNet and Cindy Wasser at Home Innovations. And here we wanted to essentially show what one specific home with all the same characteristics, all the same dimensions, water use, etc., the way that they would each behave under any of these three certification paths. So considering the ResNet performance path, and considering Home Innovations NGBS performance and NGBS prescriptive paths. So it's a home in Minneapolis, Minnesota, 2,400 square foot, 4-bedroom house. It sits on a 4,000 square foot lot. It's got toilets that flush at 1.28 gallons per flush. Faucets that flow at 1.2 gallons per minute, kitchen faucet at 1.5 gallons per minute, and shower head at 2.0. It has an efficient hot water distribution system, meaning that when you open the tap, there's a specific amount of time and volume that's limited to receive see a temperature change of at least 10 degrees at the hot water tap. It's got Energy Star certified dishwasher. It has a clothes washer, an Energy Star certified clothes washer with a 3.8 IWF, integrated water factor. And outdoors, 1,600 square feet of the outdoor area are landscaped, and they have WaterSense labeled spray sprinkler bodies and a weather-based irrigation controller that's also WaterSense. And the system is installed and commissioned by one of these professionals. So all of these items under any of the certification programs will add on to that efficiency that you're trying to reach, that 30% efficiency. So under the HI prescriptive path, it passes because it checks off all the boxes. Under the ResNet HERS H2O path, it also passes because it's scoring under 70. This house scored a 69. And under the HI performance path, the water rating index tool, it scores a 64. So it's also passing. So we thought that this would be a good example, just to, as we all try to sort of wrap that idea around each home being certified, potentially being certified under different programs. And now I wanted to jump in a little bit into the actual design aspects of some of these homes. Now that a lot of the characteristics are no longer a requirement, we still want to promote good practices and design strategies that make sense to incorporate during the design phase, so that homes can be designed and built to be water efficient. So our homes essentially, they have fast hot water is one of the easiest or simplest way, most efficient to get to safe water. Savings that perform. So here we're referring to WaterSense labeled products, which are easy off-the-shelf products to purchase and to specify in a lot of your projects. Peace of mind, because we go through a rigorous process to make sure that these homes are saving and performing up to standards that home buyers are expecting, and outdoor ease, because we've added this flexibility so that regardless of what region in the country you are, you're implementing appropriate outdoor strategies for your homes. One of the requirements of our previous program was hot water distribution, which tended to be one of the most challenging parts, but it's also a very efficient way to achieve this 30% efficiency. So we want to reduce, so when we're designing homes, we want to design systems that reduce the wait time at the tab. We want to save this water because saving hot water is also going to save us energy. So it's sort of a double win for this strategy. And the way that we do that is that we design a system that holds less than half a gallon of water between the water source and the fixture. So really trying to get water there as quickly as possible. Through some of our resources, we provide technical assistance and some support and design assistance in how some of these can be designed or implemented. And so I'm just sharing a few here. So we have a lot of like if and then scenarios, and here we're looking at a demand initiated research system, truck and branch, which is a very typical system, or a whole house manifold system. So depending on the square footage of your home, depending on the layout of the home, some of these systems, would be appropriate to achieving that water efficiency. And then when it comes to outdoor design, even though we don't, again, have a very precise or prescriptive list, it's definitely an area of much importance that still needs to be tended to with a lot of details. So we still want to provide homeowners with the attractive and water efficient landscapes, sort of that curb appeal, continue to keep that curb appeal. On average, a single family home in the United States, like we had mentioned earlier, uses 30% at least outdoors, but that can always fluctuate. So it is an area that needs to be considered when looking at water efficiency. And how do we achieve these? Each WACM will have different strategies that will contribute differently to each outdoor strategy to achieve that 30%. So it'll be a combination of both appropriate landscaping and efficient irrigation systems, as well as the consideration of including outdoor irrigation professionals to perform audits. And so what are the next steps for our program? We just passed a big deadline or a big threshold, which was June 30th, where all homes that had been permitted until June 30th could be certified under version 1.2. And now our next big threshold is December 31st, where we'll be phasing out version 1.2 fully, and all homes after that will have to pursue the new version, which is version 2. So again, our next steps, we're just rolling out the program. We want to continue building our stakeholder base with this added flexibility and with more participation of new HCOs. We think that the industry is really going to adopt the program and have really received a lot of positive feedback of this new upgrade and just more versatility in the program. So we're looking forward to continuing to spread the word. And with that, we're all done. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or my colleague Jonah, who has been at the program also for a good while and is very knowledgeable of all the technical aspects. And yeah, we're always just eager to get people moving in the water efficient direction. So yeah, thank you again.
All right, thank you, Olga. Before we move on to the formal Q&A session, I wanted to cover some of the LEED aspects, and some of you had some questions on that. So let's just briefly go through a couple of those items, and then we can move forward from there. So real quick, like I said, just right out of the gate, by getting certified to WaterSense, you get one innovation point within LEED. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 there. And if you're doing multifamily, there are some different things you have to look at. And I suspect most of this probably is going to be fixed now under version 2. So this was written under version 1, all fixtures and fittings having to have water efficiency, water specifications, hot water delivery system, details there, outdoor water criteria being met, and meeting performance testing requirements of WaterSense new home that include pressure and no detectable leaks. So again, I think this was written for the older version of WaterSense, and so the newer one probably eliminates most of these items that you have to do additionally in multifamily or mid-rise, but make sure to request that and check that out. And then, of course, indoor water use, 6 points available there. And I've highlighted some areas here for you, and I will be sending this out later. So first, to know that if you have fixtures installed that are using more than 2.5 gallons per minute per shower head, and I don't even know, is that even allowed anymore under this version, Olga?
I'm sorry, Brett, what was that again?
So it's projects that install fixtures consuming more than 2.5 gallons per minute per shower head compartment. Is that even allowed in under WaterSense?
Yeah, so that's a tricky one. So I guess technically it would be allowed, but I don't know that under any of the WACMs that's going to achieve you or get you to that 30%. So yeah, it's probably.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I'll get to that in a second. So. And then each lavatory faucet must be WaterSense labeled. So just to reiterate, that's a WaterSense certification requirement, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. And so you can just see here, you got to be at 1.5 on the lavs just to get a point. You need to be at 1.75 on the shower head just to get a point. And you can't have all of your toilets exceed 1.1 gallons per minute just to get a point. So that is, you have to get at least 3 points on multifamily in water use in LEED. Under LEED V4.1 for single family homes, that's still going through the beta stage. It hasn't been formally adopted yet, but should it be adopted the way it is, then there's some more flexibility under LEED V4.1 as far as picking up more points for having low flow devices and fixtures. So again, you're going to probably pick up quite a bit of points here in this section here under the prescriptive pathway of LEED. And then outdoor, again, here's how they match performance. And there are some additional points under V4.1 for having more efficient irrigation systems, which were removed under the multifamily program. And you had to get that in the performance pathway. But you can see here just your turf grass to native grass ratio, which again is going to show up in some of your ratings, like on the water budget tool there. So it's important to know that by going prescriptive in LEED, you can only get 6 points. But if you go performance in LEED, you can snag 12 points. So there's additional points there. Unfortunately, and one of you asked this question in the chat box, unfortunately, LEED has its own performance pathway and has not adopted any of the other ones that have been referenced here. They are looking into it, but they have not done that. So this is your chance to weigh in on USGBC and basically just ask them to use the WaterSense program or one of these HCO programs, WRI, H2O, HERS, or WERS, hopefully, and basically move away from LEED's program so that we're kind of talking the same language here. But LEED came out of the gate right away with performance with their own tool before anyone else did, which we appreciate. And, so there's a lot of benefits to using the performance pathway. Like we said, if you've got high flow rate shower heads that your clients want, you can find those water savings somewhere else, like in the toilets or outdoors. Or maybe you've got a low income housing project. People have always been concerned about low flow toilets, whether it's a real concern or just a perception of a concern, too nervous to use the low flowing stuff. And so they'll, find those water savings somewhere else. So again, Performance is the future. That's the way we're headed. Just to have more, just like our energy modeling, we need to have more informed design in our water modeling. So we've had HERS H2O on the show back in 2019. You can check that out from ResNet. There's probably updates since we've done it, so we'll have them back out. We're going to have WRI from NGBS, the Home Innovations Lab, on in a little bit, hopefully this year or next. And then if you want to learn more about the LEED water budget pathway and many of the different savings, we covered it pretty significantly here when we also talked about toilets and some new technology, but we hope to do another session just on the LEED pathway alone. So that wraps up our session. We're going to get into Q&A. If you gotta go ahead. You're approved for the CEU. Totally understand. If you want to keep the conversation going, we got some questions. We're going to stick around. If you're looking for your certificate, check your spam for customer care at gotowebinar.com. You'll see it there. Make sure to take that survey. Even if you don't need CEUs, please take it. And if you're watching this in the future on demand, go to our Thinkific channel and take the quiz there, or the USGBC channel. Get an 80% passing rate, and then you can pick up your CEUs. And before we get to those questions, as always, a huge thanks to our board of directors, our volunteers, our new executive director, Jose Reina, and all of our top tier sponsors, Mitsubishi, Build Equinox, and Rheem. We couldn't do it without them, so thanks for that. So let's get into some of these questions, and there's a lot about existing homes. How do I certify my own home? Or how do we, we've got millions of existing homes in our country that are, wasting energy, wasting water, leaking, which causes all sorts of health problems and issues. How do we transform our existing homes, and can WaterSense help us do that?
Yes, that's actually a great question, and I'm sorry I didn't talk about it more during the presentation, but yes, during our previous version of the program, it was so much harder to achieve water efficiency in existing homes because the list was so prescriptive, and every single item had to be checked off. Now that's not the case, because now you've got the flexibility to see where you can save that water. So yes, you can absolutely have an existing home be certified. You simply have to look at where you can get more bang for your buck. If you're in a really hot area, look at your outdoors. If you're indoors, switching up your water plumbing fixtures, and all of these other different strategies, being a huge remodel, looking at your hot water distribution system. But yes, there's definitely much more opportunity under this version.
Olga, what, can you talk to me a little bit more about the motivation factor here and what you're seeing out there? Obviously we've got massive droughts hitting the country, believe it or not. In the Midwest here, where we're surrounded by water in Lake Michigan, we're getting hammered with a drought. I live in an area where there's groundwater that's running out. So it's very top of mind to me. So I know that could be a potential motivating factor for water savings in general, but certification, is it, first of all, is this program mandatory anywhere? And then second, wherever it's not, are there incentives? And obviously you don't have to list off everything, but just in general. So
yeah, absolutely. So it is not mandatory. What we have seen, the trends that we have seen are local water utilities or municipalities adopting either all or some of our requirements as part of their sort of programs or incentives. We also see a lot of utilities offering incentives such as reimbursements or subsidized plumbing fixtures, or they'll have like a program to replace all toilets, or a leak-free program. And so through WaterSense and our sort of marketing part of the team, they tend to work a lot with the municipalities in doing, every month there's a different type of event or sort of water saving action. So we have a leak-free month, or check your outdoors month, check your lawn. And so there are a lot of innovative and sort of fun ways that communities are looking into incentivizing their customers.
So a question here about the certification process for inspectors, and I don't know if they necessarily mean home inspectors, but a home inspector I think would be geared up to do something like this. What is what is the process? I suspect it has something to do probably with the HCOs, but just can you reiterate that real quickly?
Absolutely. Essentially what we're leveraging through this structure is the folks that are doing energy ratings right now that are working with ResNet, that are working with Home Innovations. These folks are very familiar with this sort of practice and the process of verifying homes on the ground. And so even through our previous version, we have leaned on them very much so to take, to carry on the program. And another added flexibility and a sort of perk of this new version is that it is better aligned with all of these other certification programs such as Energy Star or Indoor Air Plus. And so if your home is already being rated for Energy Star, these folks would, it would be relatively simple for them to add on the WaterSense certification.
There's a question here, let me make sure I got it right, about commercial buildings or mixed-use multifamily. What resources are there for them to do something like this?
Yes, so we don't offer certification for commercial, but we do have on our website, we do have best management practices for commercial buildings. These are all practices that focus a lot on the management of buildings and sort of other strategies that folks can implement to save water in that sort of setting.
So if there is a multifamily project with commercial space, can they be involved? Is it just not the commercial space, or how does that work?
Yeah, so when we certify multifamily buildings, we actually certify each unit. So the residential units could obtain a certification, but the commercial space would not. Correct.
Okay, but it would still look at the outdoor area surrounding each unit. Is that correct?
Yes, and they are, depending on the HCO, the WACM that you're working with, they have specifics on how each outdoor common areas or outdoor, if you've got pools, if you've got big lawns, if you've got shared space, on how those are accounted for. Mm-hmm.
Talk to me a little bit about gray water or rainwater and where that, is that mandatory in any way, or can it play a role in helping your certification?
Yeah, that's a big topic right now, and that's one that we really grappled with as we were developing and still are developing our technical evaluation for the PCMs. And it's something that we definitely see in the future. Right now, it's not a requirement. And right now, neither of our HCOs are required either. I think one of the biggest hurdles right now with grade water, rain harvesting, is the lack of data that we have to really understand how that efficiency plays out in different regions, through different seasons, through different types of equipments that are capturing the water, et cetera. So it's still an industry that's very much evolving very quickly. So we hope that, we start to have data sets that can tell us a little bit, could be more accurate about how that water is performing.
Yeah, thank you. And so is there ways, are you saying either of those programs you can't even get your 30% reduction through that?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
You could still implement it, but it still doesn't contribute to either.
Right. So like, for example, if you had a poorly water using house but just ran it all through rainwater, you couldn't get WaterSense that way, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Looking at technology here is a good question. And you made it clear that utility tracking has no relationship to this program or isn't required. But what, I guess the question here is, do you plan to give credit for tracking leaks and floods? Obviously, you don't give credit in this program. You just do a pass-fail, right? Or can it? Can floods? I know that's more of a durability issue, but especially on the leak tracking. I mean, I have I have a instant water use tracking set up, right? So I know exactly how much water I'm using down to the second, right? It's pretty cool stuff. I think it's a direction we need to head into. Where can that play a role in this program, or are there any plans for that in the future?
Yeah, that's a cool question. So as a matter of fact, like I mentioned earlier, we always have sort of an ongoing list of products that we dive into to do research and to see if it would be appropriate for us to kind of go in and standardize a certification process for a specific product. And so leak detection right now is one of the items on our list. And there's a lot of variables that go into deciding whether products can be certified or not. And it's also a very involved process with the stakeholders, the manufacturers, the industry. And so yes, that is on our list. It is something that we're talking about. So possibly.
And this is an interesting question, but just looking at time of use programs for electric savings, and I know that on one end of the thing, if you're pumping water at a certain time of day, right, you could be charged more for your peak load usage. Something I'm personally looking at, and I know everyone's looking at now, utilities switching to that. On the other end, if you're pumping water, the utility plants might be, using more water, right, to bring you energy during that certain time of the day, whatever it might be. So like, for example, usually wind is better at nighttime. Is there any connection to shifting when you're using water from a peak standpoint in the similar way that, we try to shift our electrical usage?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one that I don't have the answer for. I think just speaking broadly, I think we have seen a very big shift in residential water use throughout the pandemic because so many of us are home right now. So I think it's still a consideration, maybe like in its infancy. Another big challenge of the way that we sort of can create energy and feed it back and compare that into water use is that with water, we still don't have that facility of like, if I have more water than I need, can I send it back to the utility, right? So yeah, definitely conversations that are being had, but just different dynamics in the way that each of those are handled.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Almost like sending back solar power. You're sending back
Right,
water to
correct.
help everyone else. That cool thoughts there. So, well, Olga, we really appreciate your time here. I don't see any other questions, but I thank you so much for joining us and helping us understand the importance of saving water and the WaterSense version 2.0 program. Where can people, again, just remind them, where can they go to learn more or reach out to contact you?
Sure. So our website is epa.gov/WaterSense. And then you can always reach out to me. My email is cano.olga@epa.gov.
Okay, Olga Cano, EPA WaterSense. Have a great week, everyone. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.
All right. Thank you all. Bye.
Be sure to check out all of our courses available online that you can watch anytime and anywhere to pick up your CEUs. Before you go, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube to get weekly updates and stay up to date on green building science courses, webinars, and home tours. Thanks again.